Here are some of the things Joe Schoen, the Giants GM, have said about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley throughout the week. Most recently, I wish we were closer to a deal with Daniel Jones. And as Myles Simmons started to say earlier in the program, wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first. See, I've gotten away with 3 of them so far today. We'll see if I ultimately get away with it if I'm back here on Monday. Is it 4? I don't know. I lost count at 2. Anyway, the best part of that line for Bad Santa is the Thurman Merman reaction, because his reaction is, okay, I'll file that one away for future use. Thank you for that nugget of wisdom, Santa, even though I know you're not the real Santa. I'm just playing along because I need a friend. That kid should have won. The actor whose name I've never known, who plays Thurman Merman, should have won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in the year that Bad Santa came out. I am convinced of that. That is one of the most brilliant acting jobs I have ever seen in my 57-plus years. Okay, so the Giants trying to act natural, trying to think everything's under control as Daniel Jones wants $45 million per year. And, you know, we caught wind of that a couple of weeks ago, and people were like, oh, you're making it up. Here you go again. Well, you know what? After a couple of days in Indy, 45 may be the floor, not the ceiling, Myles, based upon the stuff I was hearing there.
Well, I mean, look, it's a negotiation starting point. If you're Daniel Jones, why shouldn't you ask for that? That's kind of the market rate for quarterbacks, right? So if this is a negotiation and I am Daniel Jones' agent, then yeah, I want the most that I can get for my client. So why would you not be there? I mean, that's sort of the thing that, like, people always are like, oh my God, how are you going to pay your quarterback that much money? Like, I don't know. That's just what the market rate is. And also, it's not your money. So, like, I always get confused when people
What was that voice?
Like that. No, that was a new character. I didn't even workshop.
All right.
It's my annoyed person on Twitter voice who I think is kind of dumb and doesn't understand the way football and contracts work. Like, is that not, what we see all the time? How are you going to do that? How are you going to pay that guy that much money? That's just the way it works. And all the cap does is go up. So don't worry about it. It's also not your money. So that stuff, like, I don't get it.
Well, that's the thing. We hear some significant number for a player, quarterback, whoever, and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe he's getting that much money. Right, but the cap keeps going up and up and up, and the owners are floating around the Mediterranean Sea on 300-foot yachts, okay? They're fine, and they'll continue to be fine. Nobody's had to take out a second mortgage on his super yacht because of a quarterback contract yet.
Yeah,
and
I
understand. Well, that's true. I understand the psychology. And I don't know whether or not anybody is charging his or her team $4.5 million per year in advertising fees for putting the team logo on the super yacht either. But I digress. I understand that from the perspective of the people who don't have as much as NFL players or owners, they're all in the same bucket of just natural resentment. But folks, you got to understand, the players, if you're making $1 million a year and the owner is making $500 million a year in revenue or whatever it is, and let's just say, let's keep it more simple than that. If your net worth as a player is $5 million and your net worth as an owner is $5 billion, that is a gigantic, astronomical, seismic difference. For most people, the M and the B doesn't mean anything. If it's an illion, then it's somebody that we should resent. They're rich. Most of the players who cycle through the NFL do not emerge on the other side rich, and it's not because they haven't properly managed their money.
Right.
Most of the players in the NFL are not making millions. Most of the players in the NFL are looking at 3 or 4 years of wages in the range of $750,000 to $1 million, maybe less than that, and then you take out taxes and fees and your cost of like you don't have this giant nest egg when you're 28 and the NFL machine spits you out and you still got 60 or 70 years of life left. That is dramatically different from the billion-dollar owners, and I don't know why most people refuse to see the difference, Myles. It drives me crazy.
Oh, I don't know. But like I said, I mean, it's when it comes down to it, you have to pay your market rate for a quarterback unless, at some point somebody's going to take one of these mid-tier quarterback deals. I kind of think it might be Derek Carr. Like, he's not going to make 45 plus million. Nobody's going to pay him that. And, maybe you should want to ask for that, but I think you have to be realistic and also know, and a good agent can help you do this, like, you're not going to receive that on the open market for a variety of reasons. If you're Daniel Jones and you kind of have the New York Giants over a barrel because you've got your quarterback and your marquee running back who are both up for free agency, and they're going to have to choose whether or not to franchise you and then figure out something with this other running back, then yeah, you start to ask for the moon because that's a completely different situation, right? So all these things are circumstantial, and that's how you're able to negotiate. That's how you're able to figure out what the market rate is, and that's why you can be like, yeah, 45 million is what I want right now.
Here's the problem for Daniel Jones. The franchise tag, non-exclusive, is $32.416 million. So
yes,
the Giants will just say, and this is a no-brainer, when Jones did the switch from CAA to Athletes First, and I said this last week, it's not like he went from mom-and-pop store to high-end agency. He went from one high-end agency to another. If CAA wasn't getting him $45 million a year, there's no freaking way, all due respect, that Athletes First is getting him $45 million a year. It's just not happening. Right. The Giants will go $32.4 million this year. They'll do the 20% raise next year. That's $71 million over 2 years. And then they could do the 44% raise year 3, and the total payout, 1 year at a time for 3 years, will average $42 million, still less than what the guy wants. Why wouldn't you do that if you're the Giants?
Right.
Because every step of the way, you have the ability, Myles, to pull the plug. If it turns out that 2022 was the exception, not the rule, and it was temporary, and it was Brian Daboll and his coaching, not Daniel Jones and his inherent abilities, which is entirely possible, then you can get away after 1 year. You can back out. You can move on. And for Jones, okay, fine, you force the Giants to tag you, and then Saquon Barkley leaves. Good luck having the same year you had last year if you don't have Saquon Barkley having a pretty damn good season. They better find somebody else to come in and be Saquon Barkley, even though that person isn't Saquon Barkley. That makes it harder for Daniel Jones to replicate what he did last year. So, I've heard different stories, and, that one of the things about going to Indy, I mean, the rumors are everywhere, and which people close to a player is influencing them. But this could be a situation where somebody is influencing the player to think he's worth more than he is, and now the agents are trying to deliver on promises made. We know this happens when a player changes from one agency to another. There's something that new agency said that got that player's attention. And I doubt that it was, hey, you know what? There's really no difference between us and CAA. If they couldn't get it for you, we're not going to get it for you either. I have a feeling that's not what was said.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, that is the kind of difference, though. I mean, when you're talking about 45 versus 32 in this first year, right? I mean, you could say, all right, let's meet somewhere in the middle, 38 to 40 and try to figure this out for a couple years, and then we'll see what happens. But I think the way you just put it, Mike, where if you go tag, and you're still averaging less than what he wants right now over 3 years, that's an approach that would make sense for the New York Giants because they can pull the plug, and you just don't really know exactly what Daniel Jones is as a quarterback. And if it turns out that it's just, he's kind of average, maybe slightly above average, then you can pull the plug before it gets to be some astronomical number that you just don't want to pay.
I did a podcast appearance last week with Giants Huddle from the team's official website, and I was asked about the possibility of a short-term deal, and I initially said I don't think that would work, and then I started to come around and said, you know what, maybe that is a win-win here. Maybe that is a way to work this out and give the Giants some flexibility to really study whether or not he's a long-term guy and get him paid fairly and give him some security, more than $32.4 million. And I had someone that I know and trust break down for me a very simple 2-year deal. $30 million signing bonus, $8 million in base salary this year. That's a $14 million cap number. $35 million in compensation for 2024, a $41 million cap number. 25, 26, 27 are all avoidable. There'd be an $18 million cap charge in 2025. $73 million, fully guarantee it. That gives him 2 years of franchise tag pay plus a little bit more, fully guaranteed for now. It gives the Giants 2 years with him, and then out the door potentially in 2025. If I was Jones, I would want a commitment to no franchise tag, no transition tag. I walk away. That's where the negotiation may get a little rocky because the Giants may say, hey, we still want to have the chance to tag you on the back end. But that's a way to find a middle ground here. If, as adults, we sit down and look at this and understand, not only does the CBA give the Giants the right to tag the player, it also gives the Giants the right to apply a tag that is far lower than market value. And that's just the way it is. And Jones' only alternative, Myles, is to go look for someone else to sign him to an offer sheet, which I doubt is going to happen, or sit out, which I doubt is going to happen. So it would be nice to think they could come together, understand the circumstances, and work out a deal, and then use the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley and keep Barkley around for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, it's interesting just how different the two situations are. We're talking about with Baltimore and then with the New York Football Giants when it comes to their quarterbacks, right? Because this is not the same, when we're talking about Daniel Jones and the non-exclusive franchise tag, we don't think anybody is realistically going to sign him to an offer sheet that would ostensibly have the Giants receive 2 first-round picks for Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones is not Lamar Jackson, and I don't really mean that in a disrespectful way. That's just objectively true because Lamar Jackson has an MVP award.
It's facts.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones does not. Right? I mean, what have we seen from Daniel Jones that makes us think that he's exactly the kind of quarterback that Lamar Jackson is? Yes, Daniel Jones can make plays with his legs, but he's not nearly as dynamic as Lamar Jackson. So it's when you have different circumstances that makes it play out in a different way. And there is more of a predictability factor because Jones is working with an agency and Lamar Jackson is not. So, I mean, there are just all of those different factors that are going into it. When you're talking about Jones and the Giants right now.
Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out. And again, if they can't get it done, franchise tag, and you're right, no one's going to sign him to an offer sheet and give up 2 first-round picks, but somebody could try to trade for him, and maybe the Giants will say, hey, Brian Daboll's the guy that made Daniel Jones into Daniel Jones. He can make somebody else into a player who plays like Daniel Jones. But that'll all be determined, again, 4 days from now, Tuesday at 4 Eastern. That's the window closing on the application of the franchise tag. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.